It's always.
Yes, it's yours. You can sit in it. Of course you can. It's yours, girl. How's it feel?
Like a dream.
Is it your dream come true?
It is.
Oh, I'm so happy for you. Are you crying?
Yes, I am.
I'm crying for you. Oh my God, I'm so excited. This is the best surprise ever, hey?
You are the best.
Pardon, what was that?
You are the best. You are the best.
Oh, I know. I knew you were going to be crying. That's why I had to make a video. I'm so excited for you.
Alrighty, so now we're on sponsor reel.
We just want to mention our sponsors are the reason we can do what we do, and we appreciate them. And everybody watching and listening, hopefully use them.
Who said you can't teach an old dog new tricks? Hi, I'm Kayla Rubenstein, the founder and CEO of a company called Retail Resilient, social selling for the car industry. And we help auto dealers, auto agencies, and vendors in the auto industry sell more cars, service more cars, and make more money using our social selling strategy. That includes TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and anything else you can think of. So if you're looking to invest thousands and make millions, we're definitely the social selling company for you. Like I said, who said you can't teach an old dog new tricks?
If you run a service drive, you know these days first impressions matter. But when your advisors are tied up with inbound phone calls, they tend to neglect their other, more important duties. And did you know 75% of all service calls are frequently asked questions and routine requests? Still, the average dealer misses up to 30% of inbound calls, adding up to a ton of missed service opportunity and increased customer churn. 68% of callers actually go elsewhere if they can't get through, which means you could be losing $60,000 to $70,000 every month in service revenue simply from missing calls. So who will pick up? Introducing Brooke.
Hi there.
Your best service scheduling assistant. Brooke is the first intelligent digital voice assistant to answer, handle, and appoint all of your inbound service calls. Hiring Brooke means absolutely no call goes unanswered, boosting your customer satisfaction and reducing your overhead costs. And talking to Brooke is like talking to a friend with human-level understanding and a friendly conversational voice. Her conversational intelligence is built on millions of actual service industry conversations, making her the easiest onboard you'll ever have. She can handle any volume of calls and follows your policies every step of the way, 24/7. That means even when the lights are off, Brooke is always on.
And I can do it without missing a beat.
You really do check all the boxes. Book with Brooke today. Visit Brooke.ai or call 866-942-1236. Finally, the perfect match.
See that light above the bathroom door over there? That's a big time saver for our technicians and other recon staff. The light goes on when the bathroom is occupied. Now techs keep working until the light goes out. Then they know for sure the room is empty. And when they're busy there, they're also catching up on the news. Not bad news, but news they need for the job. I post these where they can't be missed. Too often, the search for the right product brings valuable time. This inexpensive detailer's cart organizes supplies. Now techs lay their hands on what they need without delay. We got these time savers from Rapid Recon, the reconditioning software company that's always defining better reconditioning solutions for dealerships like yours. When the goal is to get cars through recon in 72 hours or less, every step, every minute, every better decision made helps towards that goal. For more recon efficiency ideas like these, talk to the recon experts at rapidrecon.com.
I'm going to play this other video one more time because I think it was a little cut off at the live stream. So let's start the show with a positive video.
Yes, it's yours. You can sit in it. Of course you can. It's yours, girl. How's it feel?
Like a dream.
Is it your dream come true?
It is.
Oh, I'm so happy for you. Are you crying?
Yes, I am.
I'm crying for you. Oh my God, I'm so excited. This is the best surprise ever, hey?
You are the best.
Pardon, what was that?
You are the best. You are the best.
Oh, I knew you were going to be crying. That's why I had to make a video. I'm so excited for you.
Oh my God.
Cool. All righty. Good morning. So let me just get rid of this.
Good morning. You know, we sometimes tend to forget that we bring people dreams. And I know it's a bit of a hokey term that we always use. And we say, oh, no, we make dreams come true, etc. But when this lady that posted this is a Volkswagen dealer in British Columbia, Vernon, and she did make her dreams come true, and she does do subprime. I have no idea what this lady's circumstances were, but obviously she made her dream come true, and subprime isn't a swear word anymore. So
yeah, and it was a little hard finding books because there's not really a specific book on subprime. The best one I could find is Automotive Special Finance Road to the Sale. There's a couple other books from Delphi and other places talking about subprime, but those are a couple I could find. So if you're in the market for writing a book, you might want to write one on subprime because it's a big market and there's not a lot of books out there. Kind of similar when we had the Recon show. There wasn't a lot of Recon books either. So, Jeff, let's go with the disclaimer.
Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Auto Hub show, the special finance show, the State of Special Finance and Subprime for 2022. But before we get started, we always like to say that the views expressed today are those of our guests. I was looking at the wrong camera. Our guests, and not necessarily of that of Ian Nethercott or Jeff Pohl or the Auto Hub show, but rarely are we that controversial that we get in trouble unless one or two of our favorite guests show up. So, Ian.
All righty. So let's get into it. We're talking about the state of subprime in 2022. And for those of you who didn't attend our subprime panel on Used Car Week in Toronto, we have a former guest from that show and also some people in the audience from that show as well, which was a great conversation live. But I'm sure this one will be great as well. So let's get into it, Mr. Jeff.
Well, joining us, first of all, is Greg Morissette, who's the sales manager for Eastern Canada from Rivco Auto Finance in Toronto. And Rivco is a subprime specialist, but does all sorts of other stuff. Greg, please say hello briefly. Tell us about yourself and your business.
Absolutely. So we are a national auto finance company here at Rivco. So we do dedicate our product to the non-prime market. We've been in business for about 20 years. And for myself, I have over a decade worth of experience on the lender side of things. So, for me, it's a very exciting space to be in and one that shouldn't be shoved off the table too easily. And we'll talk about that a little bit more.
Terrific. Thank you. Next, we have Leo Savoy, who's the general manager and new grandfather from Approval Genie in, I believe, the Ottawa, Ontario area, the home of everybody's favorite prime minister. Leo, say hi and tell us a bit about yourself and your business.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me, and ladies. I'm the general manager at the Approval Genie location in Ottawa. I've been with the company about a year and a half now. Been working in auto for about 15 years. Primarily, most of that has been in subprime. I joined Approval Genie. The company just celebrated our 10-year anniversary. Fast-growing company. They started at one store in Scarborough 10 years ago, and now we're up to 7 teams at the moment, and only looking to grow some more. So yeah, it's been exciting so far, and it's looking forward to the future.
Well, thanks for joining us, and it's definitely a true thing. Not that long ago, a subprime location was full of people that talked a little bit like this. words like bud and pal and stuff are thrown around and people got stuffed into stuff. So it's nice to see that it's healthy and going well. And last but way far from least is Becky Chernick, who's the president and CEO of Chernick Consulting in a nice, huge town of Oak Ridge, North Carolina, which is kind of near Greensboro because I went on Google Maps. Becky, thanks for joining us again. We really appreciate you coming back to the show and tell us a bit about yourself and your business, and take it away.
Thank you again for having me. It's always a pleasure to be on your show. So again, talking through subprime is one of the topics that I really enjoy talking about. And I recently had a newsletter that I shared on LinkedIn, and I love it. But I have been providing finance and insurance training for automotive dealers throughout the USA and Canada, I will say, for the past 20 years or more. It's amazing how quick time goes by. And, I work from the time that customer lands on that dealership website to that conversation in how we integrate that conversation to in dealership, to the meet and greet with the salesperson, to desking and how important it is to work at that desk, because that's where it all happens. It all takes place. And then from there to finalizing the transaction in the F&I office with single point sales associate, a hybrid individual, or a designated F&I manager. So all in, get all the managers working together. That's what I try to do the best.
Well, who was it? I think there was, wasn't there a former president or maybe a comedian that said something like synergy? A little bit of synergy, So thank you very much. Ian, take it away.
Yeah, we were talking a little bit on the show last time about the status of subprime in 2022. And there were some numbers thrown around, at least in the Canadian market, because it was a show in Toronto, about sort of the percentage of subprime customers in the Canadian market. We know in the US, the numbers are probably a little different. But there were numbers thrown about in that 40% range in some markets, and maybe that was a mean average, we don't know. But I was curious as to people that work in the subprime area of the business. I know dealers sometimes don't want to deal with subprime customers. What the percentage and state of subprime is today in 2022, in your opinion. So let's start with Greg.
Okay, well, guys, first and foremost, let me thank you guys for having me as a guest. It's a real honor, especially speaking here with Leo and Rebecca. Honestly, it is a pleasure. So the state of subprime in 2022, it's interesting enough because, in my opinion, it's probably one of the best times for financing. And I'll tell you why. Because of how competitive the market is in Canada, what we're seeing is that there's a downward pressure on the rates and the pricing because of that competition. It allows for a lot more options that are available for the customer and the dealer to use financing. As of right now, I get the idea that inflation is putting upward pressure on those rates. However, those rates really are addressed by the market. And because of that downward pressure of that competition, they're at the lowest they can be. So it's a great time for them to be using financing.
Great. Leo, what do you think?
It's funny that this question is and maybe Greg can speak to it, but I haven't really noticed a massive shift in the subprime side of it. Not in the sense in terms of interest rates or anything like that. The only thing that's really kind of happening is that right now where the interest rates going where they're going, it's really only the prime side that's really been affected by that. But in terms of subprime, I always tell people when I'm speaking about it is that we're a fairly even keel kind of industry when we're talking just subprime. There's not a ton of ups and downs. It seems like we don't have that winter seasons and summer seasons type thing. So I in terms of its current state, I think that it is what it is. It's in terms of with COVID and all that. I think it in the future it might change a little bit in a sense. It's only going to get larger. I heard that stat as well. I think it was I can't remember who mentioned it in Toronto at the Toronto show, but they said it's something like 40% of the applications submitted on Dealer Track were non-prime applications, and well, you know, that's the majority of what we do, so I can see it type thing. But that's kind of astonishing when we consider all the franchise dealers and their types of applications that they're generally sending. So it's so current state, to me it seems the same, but I can see it's going to start shifting upwards for sure.
Thanks for that. Becky? Or Rebecca?
Okay, well, I have got some feedback from other dealers here in the States. And of course, things here in the States are definitely a little bit different than they are in your neck of the woods. And it really has changed a lot as far as what's going on in Canada. Because I remember when I did facilitation in Ontario, Canada for Simtech Dealer Services, they didn't want to hear anything about subprime. Subprime, we don't have subprime here, Becky. And now you're talking, what, 30, 40%? They were telling me maybe 10% at the time. And so, yeah, I do see that we are seeing more customers that will have that subprime credit. But what I'm also seeing is that to some extent, we are getting a higher interest rate. Of course, the pricing of the vehicles higher than what it's been. And also these dealer fees. We have lender fees, and that is going to impact the total sale, the profit of the deal. So a lot of dealers are sitting on this prime pre-owned vehicle where they want to capture as much profit in the deal. And they're not willing to go ahead and give up that profit to perhaps like they did in the past to put these deals together. So I'm seeing some of that happening as well.
Fantastic. Jeff?
Well, very interesting you brought that up. I saw a post on LinkedIn, which seems to be the holy grail of everything in business at the moment. And it was about a fellow who worked at a Ford. It was a Ford guy that posted this. And somebody came in and he had two F450 pickups and they marked up 10 grand over MSRP. Customer comes in and says, well, you guys are crooks. You know, the guy down the street, he sold me 5 of them and he gave me a discount on them. And of course he said to him, so why didn't you go see him? He says he doesn't have any. And he goes, I see. But his website says he has 2 of them. So these markups and things are quite the big deal. And it wasn't that long ago that subprime was used as a home for roaches and whatever term we like to call people. And, the reason we have people on here now that specialize in this and people in the business is because subprime is not an alternative. We've got people that are actually being pushed into a subprime role not because they don't pay their bills, not because they lost their job, not because they had a divorce or something, just circumstances mean they're no longer getting the prime position. And I know you touched a little bit on it, Greg, too, but are we going to see all these measures taken to control inflation really start hitting subprime? How long do you think it'll be?
Well, that's interesting enough to see what those measures toward inflation affect the market when it comes to financing. Leo was touching on it, and so were you guys, with regards to what is the proportion of our population that is non-prime. And that number's only going up. I used to use the stat that it was 1/3, and that was about 5 years ago. Now I can only imagine that growing and growing and growing, and with inflation coming into Canada further and further, what we're seeing is Bank of Canada increasing the rates. And those rates are going to affect lending across the board. Leo was saying that he's seeing it in prime. That's exactly true. And that will trickle into non-prime in the same way. There's no getting around that, right? So the more you increase the cost of borrowing, the more that you're going to see consumers being pushed out of the market because of it. Right? And so with the increased cost of cars these days included within that, it really does spell that some people just don't have that option anymore. And, to me, we're talking about non-prime financing, as an alternative. It's not an alternative, it's mainstay. It's an option for any consumer. And that only increases the purchasing power of the consumer. The more options within a free market, the stronger that free market economy is. And what non-prime lending does is allows that option to be available to customers.
Terrific. Good point. Good point. Very interesting, though. I was thinking of something while you were talking. The two big drivers that I'm hearing about affecting inflation right now are the price of oil and the price of cars. And they're affecting the cars, not necessarily, but oil's affecting everything. And maybe the measures of raising interest rates should, I'm kidding here, should not necessarily be that, just raise interest, get some more money coming in and stop the crap going on in Europe. But Becky, what do you think? What do you think is going to happen with all these measures? I know in the States you're not as aggressive on it as we are here. I mean, the Bank of Canada just raised the interest rates 1 full percentage point last week, which is, it's huge. Even the biggest pessimists thought 3/4 of a point. But what do you think is going to happen with all these, let's stop the inflation, because we're here at 8% already.
Well, here's what I think. I think that dealers need to wrap their heads around this, because we have got to be able to understand that, just as you mentioned earlier, that just because a customer has subprime credit doesn't make him a bad customer, right? It just makes it, or a bad person. It's for whatever reason, they fall under that bracket. So what we need to do is we have to put better processes in place to support that book of business and understand that it is mainstream. I got to tell you something, and I'm probably going to share that I'm a little bit older than what I look. No. So here's the thing. 20 years
27?
ago.
Wow.
I like you. I like you a lot. So, I remember 20 years ago when I was working at a Toyota dealership in Annapolis, Maryland. I don't know if you guys know where Annapolis, Maryland is, but everyone and their mother, right? The academy is there. And I got to tell you, they all told me, Becky, there's no such thing. Subprime customers we don't have those customers here. And it's just not what we're looking for. We don't want that type customer coming in. Well, I got to tell you, I changed that entire mindset. And I proved without a shadow of a doubt, Wonder Woman came in and proved 20 years ago that yes, there is. And we have to figure out a process to put in place to support that business, get to it sooner rather than later. What happens many times, we don't have that right process. We get through the funnel of that process, come to find out the customer's in the F&I office, and then we find out when it's all too late. And then we're cutting into the profit of the deal, or we can't make the deal to make it work. So our processes, as we think through this, need to change to support that book of business.
It's very interesting. You brought up Annapolis, of course, being a company
Naval
town,
Academy, yeah.
Naval
Academy, it just, yeah.
Yeah. Well, a long time ago here, to my recollection, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Leo, a long time ago, the Canadian military used to actually all but guarantee that their forces members paid their finance payments. And they used to be tough to get approved, but you could get them approved prime. And I don't know if that's the case today, but it's very interesting. You mentioned that, and a lot of dealers in the areas where there was a big military presence, same thing. We don't touch that stuff. We don't need to, because they're going to guarantee it and they'll garnish you wages or whatever. But I digress.
Yeah, Kingston may be similar, right?
Ian?
Kingston with the Royal Academy being there. I don't know what the market is like, but I'm assuming it's kind of
they
similar.
buy a
to
lot of pickups because they all come from the Midwest or something. So Leo, do you think the increasing measures are going to affect the industry? I know you said it's almost recession-proof and inflation-proof, but what do you think?
Well, I'm going to go back to your last comment about the military. Just because I am a grandfather, I don't go that far back in terms of that, but I have heard stories about a dealership or a bank calling up a the commanding officer saying, hey, your guy isn't paying his car payment, and then the commanding officer gets involved and actually gets his payments made from. I actually heard a story like that. So, but anyway, to your actual question, like, I don't think the car business is inflation proof, or the subprime isn't anyway. Like, it's going to happen, but if I remember correctly, back in 2015 or 2016, the interest rates, the Bank of Canada rate is fairly similar to what it is now, but we were still able to get prime loans bought at 4.9, 5.9 with decent reserves. Today, you offer a prime customer a 6.9% interest rate, and there's no reserve. The bank's not paying anything out. So, not a shot at Greg or anything, but I said this in Toronto as well, but it almost seems like the banks are just taking advantage a little bit of right now of these interest rate increases to just increase their base rates and maybe make a little bit more profit, because they were doing these types of rates before and not and we're still offering discounts to the customer. Subprime, like I said, I haven't really noticed a huge increase in interest rates. A couple of the big players, the TD and Scotias, have raised their lowest rate 1%, I'd say, in the last year type thing. But I haven't really seen anything. And like Greg with Rifco, I haven't seen anything with you guys either in terms of any rate increases, or you might be buying differently in terms of which customers qualify for which tiers. But so. Like, I just haven't really seen a huge shift yet, type thing. So I'm hoping it doesn't happen, because with the way the price of the cars are right now, if the interest rates keep going up, it's just going to be a disaster, absolute disaster. And in terms of the inflation, I think the housing is really the biggest thing that's causing the inflation right now. It's not the automotive. There is a lack of inventory, and the prices are up, but it truly is, I think, housing that's really crushing us. And so I don't know why they just won't leave us automotive guys alone a little bit.
Well, they love to pick on us. That opening video that we showed before we went live shows the typical news report where Joe Smith, the ex-car dealer, is showing everybody what they can do because he knows the secrets of the business. But actually, with the rise of interest rates, we can have housing deflation. And that's certainly happening in our market, but it's a very interesting thing. We don't really know where it's going to go. And my final comment on the military before I turn it back to Ian is, you call that commanding officer and they go, "Grunt, get in here. You make that payment and drop 20. It gets made up. Ian.
Yeah. To what degree are you seeing people with purchases made during COVID discovering they need an alternative to their buying decision 2 years ago? I think we were talking about this a little earlier, but obviously times change. But do you see people from 2 years ago come back saying, "Hey, I want to make a different decision now"? What do you think? Let's go with Leo to start.
Yeah, probably the biggest one right now is in the truck market. I would assume the guys that bought a truck at the start of COVID. The gas prices were at the all-time low, or not all-time low, but probably a 10-year low. We had them sub 80 cents here in Ottawa. So I think that and the prices were still realistic back then in terms of the actual the market for the cars and trucks. Nowadays, the price of trucks went through the roof. I'd say in the last 6 months or so is probably where people made the biggest blunders with their purchases, because they're buying these trucks that were inflated in cost, and then now the gas is shot through the roof, and so that's probably the biggest area that I see it right now. People are just coming in and they're not dropping keys off or anything like that, but they're scrambling to get out of them, and so it's so from 2 years ago, I don't think there's many people that are second guessing their decision there, because they're in an equity situation right now, which is kind of unheard of, right? But I see in the last 6 to 8 months, it's, those guys that bought 6 to 8 months ago, cars or trucks, are probably, they should ride it out for another couple of years, I would say.
Well, actually, we've talked about it on the show quite a few times now about the, I'm not going to say the bubble bursting, but, when as they start opening up all these plants, and all you do is read about all these chip plants opening up, and dealers start having inventory, you got people that 120,000 on a $60,000 truck might be a bit of a challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's going to be some keys getting dropped on desks at some point, I think. What I'm hoping and really hoping for is that it's not the bottom's not going to fall out of the black book or the wholesale values of these things, because that will be catastrophic. But my assumption, it took Black Book almost 2 years to catch up, when COVID first hit us. And so I'm hoping that's going to be the same case where, there might be this influx of inventory soon, I'm hoping. But I just don't see Black Book catching up the way, it shouldn't happen overnight. That's kind of what I'm hoping.
Greg, thanks.
Yeah, to speak on what Leo was saying with regards to lenders maybe being in a precarious situation when it comes to valuation of auto and the effects of the inflation on the market. There's no doubt about that. Lenders are bracing themselves for it. However, the smart lenders out there already knew this was going to happen. This is just how the economic cycle happens. And those that are well established are already planning for this. They're already prepared for this. What I would worry about more so are new lenders that have come into the marketplace. So those ones may not have the resources available to weather the storm, right? And we've seen many a times where lenders have exited the market, some with a lot of destruction, and others, they just kind of get bought out or acquired, and someone else takes on another banner. However, I would say for the most part, lending is just going to be as worthwhile now as it was beforehand. Like I said, with increased competition within this market, it only drives the prices down as much as they can, right? Which is only a benefit to the dealer and a benefit to the customer.
Thanks for that. Rebecca?
Becky, Rebecca, whatever you guys feel like. But, it's interesting because you're going to see a lot more customers reaching out trying to refinance these loans all day long. They are going to do everything they can to get out from under. So that also means any products, that sort of thing that had been sold to that customer to get that payment down, believe me when I tell you, they will get rid of those products. You're talking a lot of product chargebacks the dealers are going to be facing because they put a lot of air into these loans that customers just cannot afford. They can't afford it. So they will, and there are companies already, lender providers, to refinance these loans. It's happening, it's here, and I'm telling you, dealers are going to get hit with these refis. And hopefully not to a point where especially if customers aren't able to make payment on time. And I got to tell you, I talked to a dear friend of mine, he's a rep, who's out and about in dealerships and talking to other lenders, and come to find out this one lender, and I don't know exactly how this went down, but this individual was making, a payment of $1,200 a month, could barely make that payment. And for some reason or the other, the lender realized that the customer didn't make the income that was stipulated on the credit application submitted to the lender. And the lender gave them the option, the choice to get out from under that loan, to walk away. So what do you think? So of course the customer says all day long, I can't handle this $1,200 car payment on this truck or whatever that it was. I'm assuming it was a truck. And at that point, the dealer is what? On the hook for the whole thing.
Right.
Because if in the event those lender agreements you're signing, they're saying if the customer isn't making that income, if you are stipulating, if you are putting information to a lender that is not accurate, you're on the hook for it. So I see a lot of that happening.
But don't you think, Becky, that it behooves, I've wanted to say that for a long time, the lender to verify that income? I mean, obviously Greg's going to be able to answer that better, but wouldn't you think that once the lender approves this customer, that they're on the hook?
Well, you would think that, but if in the event it was not verified, and I would imagine that they also do their verification as well. But for an example, if in the event you are showing income on that application that you submitted or a down payment that that customer actually did not put down a down payment on, if in fact any of that information was falsified going into the lender has the right to be able to be able to charge that dealer back on that vehicle. Based on these lender agreements.
I have to say that right now, that could be very interesting because you got some, it never happens that a dealer falsifies a down payment. Never. It's never, ever, ever happened that they make it up. No. Woo-hoo.
Or even if it's like a hold check, or even if it's like, I show a deposit on such and such date that this contract was written. And it wasn't.
And just to jump in there, you're absolutely right. The thing is that depending on the provisions within your agreement with the lender, they can exercise that if it is falsified. It's 100%. However, the lender, when it comes to say income verification, that's up to them to mitigate that risk, right? And there's enough tools out there and enough information for a lender to accurately understand and know what the consumer is making on a monthly or annual basis. Now, because of how competitive the market is, you're actually seeing lenders out there waiving income, meaning they're not verifying income at all. They're basically saying whatever is stated on the application is true. Let's move on in this process, and we don't need pay stubs or bank statements or anything like that to prove income. Let's just get the deal done. And for those lenders, yes, they might again have those provisions within their contracts if they find out the income is not what is stated. However, they also understand the risk that they're taking on. Sorry, say that again?
If they've waived income verification, that the dealer's off the hook, aren't they?
Well, again, the idea is that the dealer confirmed the income that's stated there, right? The consumer may be lying, and that's where more or less the liability is held. However, you still have to confirm this information with the consumer. And at the end of the day, I truly believe that the lender who does waive income understands the risks involved in it, and they're taking that on despite it.
And it all depends on your jurisdiction too, of course.
Of course.
But to those statements, guys, it's like, yes, there are probably some dealers out there that are, falsifying information, but, don't think these buyers aren't liars either, right? There are times that they're coming in and they're manipulating their own application to make it sound better. It's, the amount of times you see that, and then, we have to verify a majority of the time the income, and we're finding out after we put all the work in that the customer was just lying about everything. So it kind of just, it's a big waste of time, but it is what it is. You take the good with the bad, but for the lenders that are waiving income, let's say, that's a calculated risk that they're taking based on the customer's profile. It has nothing to do with, relationship with the dealer or them just, sometimes they're just trying to get their book up for quarterly, reports, So for them to come back on the dealer, if it's 6 months or a year later and say, well, that person just told us that they don't make that money and they never did, so you're paying us back, is just, I'd say it's unfair. Now, if it's 3 weeks after they take possession of the car, they don't make one payment and they say, well, I don't make the money that, I don't even have a job, then that's understandable. But there has to be some sort of, what's the word in law there where the phrase it's...
recourse.
Well, just the...
recourse.
Larry felt him, his back.
I got here, it's surmised from what I've heard for the last couple minutes. Every salesperson lies, the dealers lie, the customers lie, and the entire world is collapsing. But I can't
The lenders never lie, Larry.
The entire world is collapsing.
Santayana said in 1905, those that forget history are condemned to repeat it.
Yeah.
I've seen this movie before. I was a Hyundai dealer, and Hyundai actually came out with a program that would reimburse you, the customer, if you lost your job. Does anybody remember that program?
Oh,
If you're not a
Yes,
Hyundai
I remember the program.
remember it. Okay, here's what's really going to happen. Okay, I'm from Philadelphia and I'm a car salesman. I would never lie.
Never. If you believe that, Greg, I have a beautiful used car for you. We'll get the engine.
The only thing that I say that you have to do, just do me a favor, just check your lender agreements, read over the lender agreements. We all know that people do some crazy off the wall, crazy stuff, right? But I recommend wholeheartedly, don't take my word for it, read your lender agreements and then you'll get it. That's
Read
the
everything.
only way. And I don't see enough people doing that, Larry, frankly.
And you're 100% right. When I interview salespeople, when I do my little missions, I was in Indiana this week, crazy week. I have them sign a sheet that says they're applying for a job. I'm going to train them. There's no cost to them. There's no reimbursement. And we're going to drug test them and check their license and background.
Yeah.
And they sign it blank. I go, whoa, slow down. I'm honest, but the next 100 people you might not be. Again, if you're old enough, you remember when you'd hand somebody a blank contract in the finance guy. Well, most of those guys should be
That was in Puerto Rico. I'm just that was my trip to Puerto Rico. I'm like, boy, what a different life this is.
We're Alberta up here.
You don't
if
need
she
anything.
bought a car in Puerto Rico, that's a whole other job. But the bottom line on this everything is, look, we all know what's going to happen. We're when people are buried, you do the best you can. You try to find equity. You're trying to find a big rebate. You're trying to dump it into a lease because they'll cap over MSRP. But we're not going to collapse. Listen, all these things are going to wear themselves out because.
No, I don't think that anyone's going to collapse here. I just think here's what I think. I think that we have to work smarter, and we got to quit. We've got to put processes in place that make sense, that understand what we're working with sooner rather than later. Because that's where the problem is. We do have options such as TurboPass. TurboPass is a great way to determine customer income firsthand. And obviously, I would want some sort of a verification as early on in the process as I possibly can. These technologies, these processes make a big difference, and knowing makes a difference, and putting more business together that's good business that stays on the books, because as you know and I know, repeat business is the best business.
But Becky, this all goes back to, oh, by the way, Greg, Leo, it's nice to see you guys. I had the pleasure of meeting these fine gentlemen in Canada.
I know you probably did.
As a matter of fact, it was a beautiful trip because I paid to go up, but Greg and Leo paid for me to leave the country. It was very nice, very kind, very kind.
It's a great guy.
Listen. All this stuff comes back to the same thing. If I tell you how many times I hollered at people because they didn't make a copy of the front and back of the license or a check, it's real simple. The bank comes in and wants to audit you. Say, here's the pay stub. Here's the pay stub. Here's the front and back of the license. Here's the utility bill. That's what you asked for. They can't sue you or go after you. They can try, but they won't win in court if you provide.
Well, the problem with that, Larry, is you're probably not saying what I say. Because when I'm out there in these stores, when's the desk manager getting off the desk? Let's talk about it, because this is reality. The reality of it is that we seldom get desk managers out there and about to verify this information prior to submitting these deals to the lender to begin with. It's not until that deal makes its way into the F&I office, and then sometimes I don't even have proof of income. I don't even know if anybody's really truly verified the driver's license like you say that they should.
Well, that's
have
because
in the
most
packet.
of the managers in this business, no disrespect to anybody, but I would never be inflammatory, are incompetent. They're just incompetent. They don't know what the hell they're doing. I'm all over the damn country.
There you go, Larry.
Well, no, it's the truth.
I'm just saying, I know what I see out there. I've been in the store. I was a corporate F&I director for at least, and I have seen
but you're preaching to the
more.
choir. You're preaching to the choir. I had the pleasure of personally meeting Greg and Leo. Let me tell you something. You talk about two guys that are sharp and on the beam. Leo's not having any problems because his stuff's all tucked in. And Greg's actually got like a conscience and a heart, which is not always evidence, with lenders. No disrespect.
Wait, he works for a bank, Larry.
I know. Don't you remember? I made a simple statement and he attacked me. It was like a vampire. But they're both gentlemen. These guys and the two guys, our hosts, Ian and Jeff, these guys are as meticulous as you can possibly be. It's not us. It's just the real danger, as I see it, is everybody's making a lot of money. The salesmen are out of their freaking mind with money. The managers, the owners are laughing their ass off. We're the only people that aren't getting killed with this thing. And that's dangerous because that sets you up. You know, when you're really broke, you get desperate. And sometimes when you're really rich, you get sloppy. And I don't know what turns out worse, but that's the real problem, is to look at this. If we can keep owners and managers to realize, act like you're broke. It's in my book. You want to get rich, act like you're broke and stay that way. So I think that's really the problem. And of course, when I came in, you guys were 100% right. Imagine coming back on some of these cars when these books flip. And I'm with you, Leo. I hope Black Book takes a little while to catch up. But man, some of these appraisals are going to be just scary. Because I used to think I saw bad ones in Trenton, because people would throw their old trade in and their credit was bad and they were paying 90% interest, but it's going to be ugly. All right, Becky, so go back to telling us about Puerto Rico. This car stuff's getting weird.
I had a great time in Puerto Rico. I got to tell you, it was wild.
Did you get drunk and make a couple deals and not collect pay stubs?
Believe me, I stayed at the hotel and had a really good time. So, did I have a couple glasses of wine? Of course I did, Larry.
Leo, you could tell she was a drinker. Couldn't you tell the truth? You just didn't want to say anything.
Oh, so now I'm a drinker. Okay.
Leo said it, not me. I
just said I had a couple glasses of wine that did make me an alcoholic.
Yeah, and you just said the guy made 20,000 when it was actually 10,000.
I love you, Larry.
A decimal here.
I appreciate it.
To jump in here, guys. Yeah, again, Becca, you're right. You got to read the lender agreement to see how it's going to be enforced. And as lenders are kind of putting up against the wall, they may enforce it once they find new information. They may be looking for that. And that's obviously an option that's out there. However, I don't think that's going to happen as often as you think it will. In Canada, we don't have like an income verification tool like TurboPass. You know, really, like Leo said, it's a calculated risk for lenders to actually waive income. So for the most part, most lenders are actually verifying the income themselves, either through bank statements, pay stubs, or what have you, right? And that way, we are really understanding the risk that we're taking on that way. And that risk really lies with us at the end of the day if everything is honest. So to me, like we shouldn't really be looking at a lender as a potential monster that might be coming after you. Instead, look at them as the business partners they are. At the end of the day, their customers are also your customers, right? The lender has them for the term of the car, term of the financing, you know? And as a dealer, yes, after they walk out that door in their car, you may not see them again. However, a good dealer will come back to that individual 3, 4, 5 years down the road and get referrals, and they may be the best customers in the world. We want to treat them right. You want to treat them right. That's exactly the relationship that we have with them. So why wouldn't we have a good relationship with the dealer? Why would we then try to enforce some type of provision with our contract that will not make that relationship good? You know, at the end of the day, instead of looking at the law as a solution, pick up the phone. Let's chat. At the end of the day, this is all a people industry, right? And if there's a problem, let's talk about it.
But Greg, let me ask you
Can I just say
question,
something real quick?
Yeah,
No, I'm sorry. I agree about that. I don't see lenders picking up here in the States either, looking for ways to get out from under these loans. We don't have that. But you do see, especially those egregious dealers, that at the end of the day, hey, we've got to do something about that. But yes, it's all about relationships. Sorry, thank you.
So
thank you.
That's kind of the point I've been kind of holding on, waiting to make is solely about that relationship. And it's kind of like, you know, for us at Approval Genie and me in Ottawa, what we do is it's 3 different relationships that I try to keep intact in every deal. And that's my relationship with the bank, our company's relationship, and, you know, Greg and Rifco and Approval Genie, we all have a pretty good relationship actually. So we have the ability to pick up the phone and make a call, and I can get a call from them when they say, hey, this loan just went sour. You know, the guys had the car a month, and we can, you know, as a dealer, we would have the right to say, well, that's your loan. You know, but I've done it numerous times where the customers, you know, 2 weeks into the loan, don't want the car anymore. I say, well, let's just take it back, because we're not going to get the bank to take the pill on this. And it is reciprocal. And then I also have the relationship between me and the customer that We want to make sure that that's in good standing. We take care of them. We put them in loans that they can afford. We're not messing around with the incomes, because you just can't put them in a loan that they can't afford. And then the third one is between the customer and the bank. We want to make sure that they are put in a loan that they can afford, because within a short period of time of them paying back that high interest loan, they will benefit from lower interest rates. Either with the same lender or with different lenders. So to put somebody in a position where they can't pay because we're going to lie about income or falsify documents, it just doesn't make sense. It destroys the relationships on all ends, and we just. We'll get the next deal. We always do. We don't need that deal that bad. So we don't do it. So it's the fly by night guys that you'll see that will come and go. That's the mistake a lot of the franchise dealers make when they are trying to start this subprime department. They'll create a separate department. They hire one guy that's been in non-prime for 10 years and he's slick and he's a fast talker, and he comes in and he hits everybody for huge growth, and he's gone in 6 to 12 months because, well, all he does is just create liability, and then they got to cut him, So that's where we stand anyway.
One of the things, sorry, I didn't mean to take this, but I can't help myself. But I gotta say, I completely agree with that statement as well, because I can tell you how many F&I departments I have had to clean up over time because a dealer decides to bring on this guru of subprime, and and you have like a hailstorm of BS, and customers are rotting when there's no way in heck you can get them to get them a loan or approved for like 3 months out, and it just gets crazy. And that's where all the nightmares come from it, and that's why dealers shy away from that type of business.
There's a way to do it though, Becky, and that's just incorporating, the subprime process right into the actual retail process. It is a very, well,
I've run some big stores as well, and we did exactly just that. I mean, so you're talking someone who has worked with the AutoNation stores, and I can tell you that we incorporated both. We didn't have a single point subprime person. So I completely agree with that. Type of process.
To jump in there, I would say that most dealers don't take on non-prime financing because of the fear of an individual doing something illegal or something unethical. To be honest with you, I think most dealers don't entertain non-prime either because they don't want their brand associated with a certain demographic, which I really think is a false objection. I think for the most part, they see it as a daunting task or process that they just don't want to get involved with,
And isn't that ridiculous, Greg? Because when you consider how many people have poor credit, a lot of these people are better and nicer people than the people with good credit. Somebody got sick or there was a divorce or something.
Absolutely. The amount of times I have chatted with dealers and I said, what if someone's finances are a little challenged? They say, I walk them out the door. I kind of look at them. I look at them like they have 3 eyes because I've never taken a business class where someone says, "Oh, just say no to this customer. Oh, they're willing to buy. Oh, just say no to them." Right?
We got into a heavy duty special finance, subprime, and a guy was complaining, and I pulled him aside. I didn't do it in front of everybody, and said, "Listen, did you fall out of the stupid tree and hit every branch on the way down? Do you think you're better off trying to earn a profit with a guy that makes $600,000 a year and is smarter than you, or a guy that hasn't paid his electric bill in 2 months?" It's a profit center. And if you treat the people with respect, because I am a capitalist, and make money, but treat them well and follow up and don't ignore them. Listen, you go to a country club, you see a lot of rich people. You'll see Bentleys, Mercedes. You go to poor people, hang with poor people, rich people, hang with rich people. You get somebody into a car. It's always, Leo, it's the funniest thing in the world. You and I have seen it a million times. They go back to the neighborhood and they go, "Who gave you a loan? Your credit's worse than mine." So it's such a stupid thing to ignore. And there's so much room there. But I think we'll all agree, much as we love dealers, sometimes they make money in spite of themselves.
Yeah, well, we call that the referral tree, Larry. When we send the guy back with that gorgeous car, we make sure it's nice and shiny. It goes back to the neighborhood. That guy generally turns into 5, 6, 7 referrals. So, and that's kind of the other thing that we do differently here is that, you know, back 10 years ago, our type of company would be frowned upon. They call us the flake house or whatever it is, because all we deal with is roaches and flakes. And nowadays, you know, we're very customer centric, where our type of selling is that we treat these clients like the Starbucks kind of you know, client. You know, they come in, they get the red carpet kind of rolled out, but you know, and so that's why when there's profit, it's not a dirty word anymore. You know, like there is profit in subprime, and you know, when you do it well, like, you know, I think we do. You know, we do well as well, and but our customers are treated with such respect, and they're, you know, the cars aren't, they're not here, you're taking that, and if you don't like it, get F out, you know,
Leo,
type thing. It's
Leo, I used to hear guys brag. Yeah, I stuffed
it's
them in the car.
unbelievable.
How stupid is that? Every time they get in the car, they curse out the car and they curse you up. By the way, Ian and Jeff, in order for a show to work, there's got to be some debate. Becky is an outstanding F&I person. Leo runs an unbelievably clean subprime situation. Unbelievable. And Greg might be the most hands-on guy you ever met. We need some crooked guys on here. I mean, other than me. Just so we have a point and counterpoint. It's like, I'm just saying, Leo, you know a couple.
We're all just
Let's
agreeing
bring 'em
with
in.
each other right now.
Well, we.
You know what? You should invite on a franchise dealer that doesn't do subprime next time, and let us have it out with them. You know, we'll eat them apart.
I don't think those guys would fare well, only because this is one of the problems with some of these dealers adopting non-prime. And you know, in Ontario, franchise stores are a big part of that. And you know, the amount of times I've seen guys in the box doing financing that are making a good amount of money, but because it's status quo, they don't want to change. The dealer principal is fine with the money that they're making. However, they don't see the looming problem that exists within the industry, which is if we have a growing segment of people that are non-prime and you're not catering to them, then what's going to happen to your sales, right?
Exactly.
So adopting this really is, it touches on what we were talking about, Leo, which is relationships. Yes, bring on non-prime and understanding that within your process may take a few more steps than say prime. However, once you adopt this into your process, you will make more sales. You will help more people. That's the bottom line here, guys.
It's
Yeah,
very
100%.
funny, you know, if you twist this around into the world of real estate. A lot of people deal with mortgage brokers. And why do they deal with the mortgage broker? Because that person sits down, assesses their credit, figures out the best, not just their credit, their situation. I actually always taught my salespeople to say circumstances, situation. Everybody's got good credit. Everybody does. Even some of the worst people have got good credit initially. But, you know, dealers have to become almost like that broker. The subprime doesn't have to be, okay, shoot everybody to the prime lenders. Then when they get turned down, put them to subprime. And, you know, Leo, that's your business, right? You actually enter this situation, it looks like with a customer, and say, okay, they want to get financed. Let's assess the customer and then decide where they go.
Yeah, I mean, we did have a
absolutely.
bonus question. Go ahead, sorry.
No, I was just going to say it's you know, we don't even like when somebody asks me, you know, I play golf quite a bit. You can ask my boss. You know, when I'm meeting new people or wherever at a party, at a golf course, whatever, and they always say, well, what do you do? And I say, oh, I'm in the car business. And they say, oh, what dealership do you work at? And I'm like, I technically don't work at a dealership. You know, we're a finance company. You know, we market financing. We sell loans. We just happen to have inventory that we use for those loans for our clients. This is what we specialize in. We help people reestablish credit through car loans or establish credit through car loans. We could still service the prime buyer. You know, we still have access to all of the prime banks. But, you know, our niche and our, like I said, our customer centric kind of selling is for the subprime buyer or non-prime buyer. So
do you promote yourself? Do you advertise inventory or do you advertise Approval Genie?
We advertise loans. like there's probably a sticking, I don't think there is type thing. Like we don't market our inventory, we just market our loan type thing. And then, you know, we have an opportunity to, not to get too into our process, but, you know, we have an opportunity to actually have a face-to-face conversation over a coffee, assess needs and wants and budgets, and see if there's anything in our inventory that's going to work. And then, you know, there's profit built into the inventory, and then there's still aftermarket products, there's still bank reserves, so there's profit there. But the customers, you know, we present options, customers make decisions. That's how it always is. We don't stick customers in cars. We give options. So, you know, I love what I do. Clearly, I'm with a great company, and it's only like I said, it looks like it's only going to get bigger and better. So.
Yeah, and to jump on here, you know, I've worked with the Approval Genie for most of my career, actually, since they had their one store out in Scarborough. And, you know, I would have to say that everyone at the Approval Genie knows their lenders well. They know their customers well. You know, they're probably one of the best groups of dealerships and financing you will see out there. And what they really do is provide that option that's out there for the consumer, because they know how to work with the banks. And the thing is that to advertise the financing side is intelligent, because what non-prime consumer knows they can get approved, a little loan at the rates that some of the banks are offering, you know, and to have that individual like Leo to provide those options and to fight for that consumer with the bank, really, there's a lot of value there. And it's honestly great to see that in the market.
Absolutely. Bonus question, and this was one that sort of came up a little bit. We know we have mainline dealers who think, well, subprime is not for us. What is the misconception that these dealers have? Let's start with Becky.
Well, again, it's a matter of the type of individual that comes in who is this classified subprime customer. I don't need this Vogue coming into my dealership. I didn't build these multi-billion-dollar franchises for a Vogue business. So I'm out. And that's their thinking on that. And or they don't, and I keep wanting to go back to this time and time again, because it is about a process. You're kidding yourselves. You're just kidding yourselves if you don't have a specific process in place to identify this customer earlier on in the process. You're just going to frustrate not only the sales associate, the F&I person trying to put this Humpty Dumpty back together again, and hopefully it sticks, right? But that's it. That's it. We have plenty of lenders. We have plenty of opportunity there. It's putting Humpty Dumpty back together again and having a process that manages and supports this type of business. But at the end of the day, you have those dealers that say, hey, I don't want that Vogue customer. I didn't build these multi-billion-dollar franchises for that.
Yeah, great idea.
Yeah, I agree to that. I think that the root cause of that is fear of change. You know, to incorporate change into your process, into your buying model, you know, it may look daunting, but it's a really molehill when they think it's a mountain, right? And, you know, you might rely on excuses like, we don't need that type of customer. We don't want, it's just too much that way. I really think that's just a way to deflect as much as possible. To incorporate non-prime lending in your process is only to benefit you down the road. And there's so many success stories, and Approval Genie is definitely one of them. And if you're not adopting non-prime lending within your process, you're really going to be left behind. And I'm seeing this already, you know, with the inventory problem that's there, I'm seeing more and more dealers struggling, but the ones that are not struggling as well are the ones that have adapted non-prime lending within their process.
Great for that. Yeah. Leo, what do you think? I mean, you're obviously looking at it from a different perspective, but what do you think?
Well, while I don't think any of these, you know, larger franchises, I'll kind of separate them a little bit. Like, I don't think that the the BMW and Mercedes and Audi dealerships and Porsche and all those guys are ever going to adopt a non-prime department, which is, you know, it is what it is. The price point on their inventory is just too expensive. However, you know, you get the North American, the Toyotas, the Hyundais, the Kias of the world, those franchises, you know, like they won't die either, you know, if they don't adapt. You know, I think majority of a lot of these guys are in it for the real estate side of it than they are the actual car business side of it with these buildings that they put up in Ottawa anyway. It seems that's what's happening, but they really, you know, if they don't adapt, they are, like Greg said, they're gonna fall behind. So I think their misconception is that, and it's almost rude that the way that when they're saying no to like this money is almost rude, saying as if these people aren't good enough to take their money. I just don't, you know, I don't get it. I don't understand it. You know, it really is, like Becky says, it's just a simple tweak in the process. And it's not, you don't have to market only financing. You don't have to put 100% approval or you know, good credit, bad credit in your messaging. You don't have to do that. It's something as simple as get pre-approved, you know. It's something as simple as, you know, your sales people taking it up, somebody walking through the door and just asking the guy during the qualifying, are you financing or are you paying cash? And when they say they're financing, you just say, did you want to get quickly pre-approved so you know what rate you qualify for? And it's the simplest things, and you're not necessarily, I don't know, you're just pinpointing the customer's motivation, really, you know. It's not hard, and we all have access, you know, in Canada we have Dealer Track, and it's, you know, it's simple. Pull somebody's credit bureau and give them an idea of where they stand in terms of financing. So I think their misconception is that they're going to look like this, you know, what we called us 10 years ago, the flake house, if they start marketing to that buyer. But it's really just more of a service that they should be able to provide.
That's the way it
Leo, you mentioned they're about the real estate. Everybody knows that Ray Kroc discovered that concept of making it about the real estate with the McDonald's, but look at the process strength of McDonald's. You can get French fries anywhere on the planet from McDonald's, and they're the same French fries.
Absolutely.
The concept should be sell everybody a vehicle, delight them, ask for more business, and make sure your service department satisfies them. That's the process. They asked Einstein what was the difference between genius and stupidity. And he said there's a limit on genius. To not try to sell everybody you can, it's just stupid. It's flat out stupid.
Folks, we got to call it a show. We thank you very much. We don't mean to cut it there, but sometimes if we go on too long, we see people don't hear the good stuff at the end. So I thank you all very much for being here. It's been just fun and very informative and very good and lighthearted. We always have Larry for a little bit of comic relief there. So I'll look at the look on his face. Any final comments before we say ta-da?
Leo,
Thank you for having me.
It was great to see you guys. Becky and I are going to come up. She's going to bring that Puerto Rican rum, and we'll really have a fun show.
Bring some cigars too. Ours are too expensive here.
I just think it's great. It's just funny. It's just, you know, 20 years ago when I went to Calgary, and maybe it was a little bit, I don't know, 15 years ago, Calgary with Todd Richardson and Charles Glenn Toyota. And I'll never forget the struggle just to get them to go ahead and pull credit on the pre-owned business. I'm like, okay, have at it on the new car business, but can we go ahead and let's get to this sooner rather than later? Well, Becky, our customers, we don't have customers with bad credit. And I swear, I'm not making this stuff up. I'm just not making this up.
That's Toyota for you.
And Toyota or whatever, it doesn't matter. That's their process. So it's like they wait until that customer makes their way into the F&I office. And in this case, he did submit the deal to the lender before the customer left, and come to find it, or maybe after the customer left, come to find out the customer had a BK. So I'm like, okay, Todd, did I get your attention? Can we do this sooner rather than later? But thank you. I think it's great that you're going in that direction, and it's a pleasure being on your show. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Have a great week.
Yeah, Ian.
Thanks, guys.
Jeff, honestly, great show. Pleasure to speak on this one, guys. And if anyone out there is wanting a bit more information on non-prime lending, you guys can reach out to me through LinkedIn or any of my contacts, and I can provide as much information and much wisdom I have gained throughout the years in this industry.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you, and I can tell you firsthand that Greg's a helpful guy. Trust me.
And thanks
All
so
the
much,
best.
Leo. Bye bye now. And Larry.